Hello everyone, welcome to my new video, and this time I'm going to talk about my new book. And this is a book which just actually recently was published, and it is my philosophy. I'm presenting this book, my philosophy of teaching analytically the drawing skills. And this is a book, mostly I did this for my students at the university, for my teacher in the industrial design and the architecture, landscaping architecture. And but it is actually for everyone. And this is not only to those students, but anyone who would like to learn the drawing in analytical way. Analytical way, what I mean by is that it is actually for if you want to kind of become a commercial artist. Yes, so you have to learn perfectly the realistic drawing skills, and because that's the basic element, the kind of roots of commercial art. You have to be, if you want to offer your services to any kind of clientele, either storyboarding for cinema, for animation, for illustrations, for design, for architecture, or if you want to become architect, or you want to be designer, of course, the drawing skills is your language of expression. And the language of expression needs to be specific. It needs to be realistic, because you cannot draw artistically crooked, stuff, and after, somebody going to produce the crooked things instead of having something which you had on your mind already looking differently. So there's all kind of elements. I'm going to go through that briefly. I'm going to show you the pages, what is where and everything. And I will also produce a series of videos, and I'm going to explain each kind of, section of the book a little bit, so it's going to be kind of for those who eventually going to buy this book, and if they have any kind of difficulties to understand certain passages, they might actually find out in those videos, the clarification of certain, section in this book. So what you're going to find in this book. Of course, in realistic drawing skills, before you really start and start really learning something like drawing, realistic drawing skills, you have to first learn how to coordinate your gestures. Yeah, so you have to kind of be specific. You have to learn, how to manipulate with your hand, in the air, because you're not drawing by smudging with your hand the surface of the paper. Your hand needs to be in the air. So I have all kind of exercises there. I show and would like to follow it. The book starts with exercises. Yeah, this kind of coordination exercises, I name it. And after, of course, you have the shadow application, how to do it. You have position you should take for drawing, and don't have problem, let's say, for in perspective, especially when you want to draw and so on. So those are the kind of steps by one, as what you should learn first in order to be much more comfortable to acquire another knowledge, much more progressive knowledge of drawing in perspective, for example. And further, the most important, drawing in proportions, because drawing in proportions is the most difficult part from my experience of over 10 years of teaching at the university and private schools, my private school and museum and so on. I find out that the most common problem is proportions. Yes, so this part of the proportions, how to measure, how to search for proportions, I also explain very kind of in details in this book. And you will see it, the book has a kind of style of a little bit comic book, because it's plenty of drawing, through which, if you follow the drawing, it would allow you to understand what you have to do first and how you proceed step by step and so on. The book has approximately, I think, 250 pages, so it's quite large content, because I also, beside, let's say, the exercises of coordination, proportions, measurements, and shading application, projection of shading. And also after I start with the perspective, so you're going to learn about one vanishing, two vanishing, three vanishing point perspective, multi-point perspective, and curvilinear perspective. And furthermore to that, you're also going to learn orthogonal projections. You're going to learn oblique projections. You're going to learn, technical drawing, how to do in scale, drawing in scale, for example. So all the most essential things, like for example, explosive projection, okay, or cross view projections, those are all specific terms, how to draw an isometry, axonometry. Yes, so all those things are essential for anyone who wants to go to design, of any kind design, interior, industrial design, whatever it is the case, you have to know these things. And also architecture, yeah. So either architecture for the buildings or other surfaces like landscaping and urbanism and so on. You have to know those projections. You have to know what it means drawing axonometrically, isometrically, or oblique projections, or any other. So there's many things. Of course, the curvilinear perspective is a very specific way of drawing where you have a lot of possibilities. I explained this in this book, from the inside of the sphere, from the outside of the sphere. So a lot of information. And in addition to this, I also add metamorphic, a drawing, how to create illusions in drawing, in art in general. Also is the caricatures. Also I explained how to really, the kind of basic step of caricature, how to kind of, what to look for, how to play with different features of the face, and so on and so on. And of course, a lot of part, the larger part, it takes, of course, the perspective, and it takes the human body. And before you start drawing portraiture, I explain you how to draw each part of the face: eyes, nose, ears, and lips, and so on. And after is the head in different, of course, spaces, what you have to look for in the half profile faces, faces up, down, and so on. And after we go to human figure, when I also explain you the geometry, how you should actually do this first, what you should start with first, essentially, in order to get this kind of better apprehension, of how you should approach any kind of figure, human form, in any kind of situations. After I also talk using how to use perspective also in the formation of human form and any other form, animal forms, and so on. So this is kind of essential, I would say. I give this kind of second title a comprehensive visual guide on how to draw, because this is really the most essential thing you need to know. Everything is in this book. So I'm going to show you now a little bit how the book looks, and briefly, so you have an idea what is there. And then there's going to be the end, and after you decide either you want to buy or not. This book is going to be mostly sell from my website, but also it's going to be in some specific libraries. And where it's going to be, I hope it's going to be in the museum, libraries in the museum, and also in, you can already consult this book. And if you live in Montreal, you can consult this book already in our Grand Bibliothèque in Montreal. Okay, so they have already some copies, and at the University of Montreal, in the library also they have 2 copies for consultation for students who really, in the departments of architecture or industrial design, and so on. So let's go. I'm going to show you now how the book looks, and so you have a better idea what I'm talking about. So here is the book, how it looks, the first page. Yes, you have the title, everything. You have the back of it, which explains a little bit, who I am. And of course, when you go to this book, for example, you have very brief content, yeah, and which from which pages to which pages, yeah, from which pages to which pages you can find the subjects you are interested in, okay. And then it starts. Of course, there's a little bit of course text there because I'm kind of introducing you to my philosophy of teaching. There's a little bit historic and of the drawing skills, how they were used through the ages of our history, art history. Then there's of course the how to keep the hand, what to do, the details about how to learn to draw in the air, not just smudging on the paper, different positions, of course, what you have to have. And after you have the coordination exercises of all kinds, yeah, I'm just kind of showing you briefly this. After you have how to really measure and search for the proportions, yeah, all kind of everything is in detail explained. After, of course, is how to apply shading, all kind of different forms of shading, yes, and how to draw and everything. After you have the perspective, of course, I am going a little bit faster, so I'm not going to show you all the pages, just what you're going to find there. There's a lot of explanation, of course, very precise explanations of how to draw in perspective from C2, from how to do the perspective, how to create perspective of any kinds. So only on perspective, I am up really talking a lot about how to construct what and what you have to use it. Now, all these problems, the problems of circles in perspective, how it works, is also very well explained. Okay, and you have linear perspective also, as you can see here. For example, you have three vanishing point, yes, a perspective. Okay, what it means and so on. And then we have the projections, technical projection of axonometry and isometry, and of course you have after how to draw really architecture and so on, step by step. I am kind of showing you this book in kind of fast way, but anyway, I explain also how to create the shadows, yes, what kind of shadow you're going to obtain by from different forms. Then we go, of course, from the details of the facial details, how to draw hair, how to draw different angles of the head, how to draw hands, and what your arms and so on, feet, legs, yeah, what you have to look for and so on. And of course, you have different proportions. Yes, you have this 7.5 and 8 heads, the most ones, and what you have to look for, and different age has different proportions and so on. And after sitting poses and all kind of very difficult poses, how you should approach those and so on. So I am skipping, as I said briefly, and of course, further if we go, there's another practice after a little bit in the perspective of isometric way, axonometric way, in perspective in general, and in design, how you draw certain forms and so on. So everything is expected after this kind of conclusive, of course, a repetition of certain things to allow you to understand better how to draw really in animals and everything. You can use perspective for anything. Yes, the three-dimensional forms, you start always with some kind of geometric approach. This is the analytic, of course, approach of drawing, and explain how to draw the vegetation, what you have to look for, yeah, and so on. And after is the curvilinear perspective, which takes quite a little bit time, how to deformate using the perspective, human form, how to create the plans, and cross views, explosive, and so on. And then we have metamorphic, of course, drawings, how to do it, how to create illusions, of animals to be in 3D. And after, of course, it's a little bit explanation of how to do the caricatures. And at the end, the conclusion is different galleries. Of course, you can see it, all kind of, and drawings, which I am actually doing, since many years. So, and that is some little glossary at the end, certain, of course, specific terms which I'm using in this book. So that's approximately how it looks. And now, if any of you, it might be interesting to buy and so on. Of course, as I said, you can review the book in libraries, which I already mentioned, the Montreal Library on Berry Street. And of course, in the University of Montreal, in libraries, they have also copies of this book. But those who want to buy, you have to go to my, of course, website, to the books, and you can actually buy one if you wish to have one. So that's it about the book, and I hope that would explain many things to many of you who maybe, even if you know to draw, already draw, this actually book could be for anyone. Actually, starting from 10 years old, not younger, but I would say even 12, 14 years old already might serve, and might, children or whatever might learn how to draw different things, how to really approach the drawing. Of course, this is I created this book for everyone, but specifically, as I mentioned at the beginning, it is mostly for those of you who want to get to the professional kind of make your career as an illustrator or storyboarder or any kind of designer, architect, any kind of technical, a specific work and services you could offer to your clients, which would require realistic, of course, depiction of forms, and even what you create in your head as a imaginary forms and so on. You will also know how to actually do this so it looks like real. So thank you very much, and I hope the book will be useful to you if you of course decide to buy one. So bye now, and I'm looking to see you again in the next videos when we're going to practice some exercises from this book. Until now.